Choisis un numéro, s'il te plaît.
Numéro 1. 7. Numéro 10. 1. 5. 19.
Zinatidi,
Oui.
épelez le mot merci.
M-E-R-R-C-I.
Correct ou pas?
N-O-I-R.
D'accord.
Est un bug cassant? Ma famille s'appelle Collins.
Alors, est-ce que tu peux traduire la phrase? L'anniversaire de mon ami.
L'anniversaire. My birthday is on the 24th of July.
Bonjour à tous. My name is Tosin Adeshino. I work with Maptit France, a French language learning agency that focuses on raising kids bilingual. Now, one of the many questions we get asked by our parents is this: how long will it take for my child to become fluent in this language? 6 months, 3 months, a year? Give me something I can work with. Now, what we try to explain to our parents is this: some of us have been learning and speaking English right from nursery, primary, secondary, and some have even gone ahead to study English in the university. Nigeria is an Anglophone country, which means English is predominantly spoken here. So then how do we help our kids become fluent in a language they barely hear? It's a joint responsibility between us, the parents, and school authorities to create an enabling environment where these kids are always in touch with the language. This means right from nursery, they're learning and speaking French, they're learning English, they're learning French. Primary, they continue. Secondary level, they also continue. This means that they need to join clubs, French clubs. They need to go on language trips, excursions, where they get to meet and interact with native speakers of the language. They learn their culture, generally their way of life. This means they need to read. They need to read, they need to grow their vocabulary. They need to watch movies in French. They need to watch cartoons in French. They do this from nursery level right up to secondary level. That is basically their entire childhood, learning and interacting in this language. So then tell me, will we have succeeded in raising a generation of bilingual kids or not? Alors très bien, maintenant on va voir si c'est correct ou pas. Le mot c'est étonner, E, accent aigu, T-O-N-N-E-R, étonner.
Libelle, le mot cinéma.
Dunjoino, est-ce que tu peux choisir un numéro entre 1 et 20?
D'accord.
Très bien. Et pour les participants de 13 à
Salut à tous. Hi everyone. So we'll just give a few minutes for other people to join in, and then we'll start the session. So we'll just give a few, say like 5 to 10 minutes for people to join in, and then we'll start the session. Thank you so much. Hello. Bonjour et bienvenue à tous. Welcome. I can see Nelo, welcome. I can see Miss Tosin Adeshino, welcome. Oh la la, we have Dr. Alani in the house. Welcome everyone. And I hope that today is going to be worthwhile because today is Saturday. I know you have parties to attend, but then you chose to be here today with us. And so I'm very grateful. You're welcome once again. My name is Jochebed Noel. I'm the administrative assistant for Ma Petite France, a French learning language agency that equips your students to grow from ground zero level in French to proficiency level. I'm sure a lot of people are saying, is it really possible to be bilingual in Nigeria? We say possible, and that's why we are here today. So if you know anyone who is going to benefit from this session today, kindly feel free to share the link and let them join us here today. As we all know, we'll be discussing reaping the benefits of starting early, what to look out for when getting a French teacher, and a lot more. And so we have a lineup of seasoned speakers who are here today. We have in the house Ms. Tosin Adeshino, Monsieur John Kende, Mademoiselle Emanuela, and I'm not going to mention the last speaker. I'm not going to mention ours. I'm just going to keep that to myself. So for our first speaker, who is going to be talking with us on why start early? Why are we saying, start speaking French early? Isn't French boring? Wouldn't it be boring for the kids? Would be having Ms. Tosin Adeshino, the founder of Ma Petite France, take us on why start early. So ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Ms. Tosin Adeshino. You're welcome, ma'am. Please take the mic.
Okay, I can hear my voice now. All right, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Bonjour à tous, ça va? Okay, so since you said we shouldn't mention the very special guest I'm going to I'm going to keep quiet on that till it's time. But thank you so much for joining. So just for your information, this meeting is being recorded because it will be available on replay for others. We will send it to the people who registered for the program so that they can also watch it after. So yes, thank you so much for your time. And yes, hopefully we have the others join us as we progress. So my name is Oluwatosin. I am the founder of Maptit France, and today I will be sharing as to why we should start learning French early. So please permit me to share my screen if I can find where this document is. Okay, yes, I found it now. I have found it, I think. Yes, this is it. Okay. All right. So the purpose of this event really is to discuss, and I know our keynote speaker is going to dive, deeper into this topic, but then we are asking the question, what is the problem in our education system from the primary to secondary school? If indeed we say we start learning French right from primary level, generally speaking from primary 4 or basic 4, other schools start as early as nursery. So they have nursery, primary, secondary school. So give or take 12 years. And then the students are not able to communicate effectively in French. Now, I'm not talking about going on a stage and delivering a, what do you call all of these things? Maybe like a debate or something that they've already memorized and, cram the heck out of it. And then they just come to the stage and just pour it all out. No, we're talking about effective communication. So understanding, being able to respond, being able to read, being able to write, and all of that. So if they have 12 years to learn this language, why haven't we been seeing results? So today we are going to look at that, and our keynote speaker is going to really dive deep into it to address, the various parts of it, right? So now the first question is, why start early? And my response is, why not? Why not start early? Is there any, I don't think I've heard the expression before that says it's better to start late than to start early. Usually is best to start out early, because the earlier you start out, you get to apply yourself and really hone the skill, and you become better for it at the end of the day. So yes, the earlier the better, as you can see here, the earlier the better. Next is for students or for children, it's easier for them. This is broad, it's easier because the brain is like a sponge that is able to absorb, all of that information early on without any general challenge, I would say. So at that age, it's easier for them to acquire a language as opposed to, the stress that comes with it when you become an adult, having to learn it. So it's easier for them to acquire the language early on. And then research also shows that, or says that, aside from helping them with the language, it also helps them with other subjects. So it also helps with critical thinking. It also helps with multitasking, right? So that is one way starting early is a benefit. And then we also have less distractions. To be honest, what are these children thinking about? Are they going to work? Are they thinking of how to provide for the they just get to go to school and watch cartoons, right? So early on, they have less distractions. They can apply themselves and, really put themselves into learning it. They have less inhibition. This means they have less emotional baggage, I would say, less emotional baggage. For example, I started learning a little late. Well, to be honest, I started learning in primary school. I had a private teacher because my dad had this idea of wanting to raise us, myself and my brother, bilingual, but my brother left the train very early. And I think I kept on just till the end of primary school. Secondary school, I dropped off till I found myself in it in university. And then one of the major challenges I had was overcoming that initial fear of, making mistakes. So for children, we handle them a lot. They really don't care. They can mix present, future, past, and everything together, and then they will be so bold in making their mistakes that you'll be like, okay, but then it's commendable. So for the students, they have less inhibitions, right? So that is one other thing to notice. Now, I'm going to go really quick because I want to give our keynote speaker as much time to speak as he would like. So the question now is it possible? Is it possible for these students to start learning early on and be able to actually speak? So we're going to let the evidence speak for itself. I'm going to play 2 or 3 videos to show you what we've been able to achieve with our children, where we call them our kids, MPF kids, but also with students from various schools that we partner with. So please give me a few minutes of your time. Let me see if I can find this video. All right, I found one.
Je me réveille à 6 heures du matin. Je suis en retard. Bonjour mes amis, je m'appelle Zina, j'ai 8 ans. Je suis votre professeur pour cette semaine.
Oh la la. Oh yeah, so this was apparently the short version. I didn't know that was the short version. Okay, so let's cut right to the chase and find something. Oops, okay, this is another.
Coucou! Allô, je m'appelle Nifessimi Ali. J'ai 6 ans. Allô, je m'appelle Faïta. J'ai 5 ans. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? J'aime chanter. Et toi? J'aime dessiner. Nifessimi est fait en chat. C-H-I-E-N. Est fait en chat. C-A-T. C-H-A-T. Une, c'est tout. Une bosse, une gomme, un stylo, un crayon. Je ne sais pas. Tu es étonné. Tu es quand? Très bien. Tu es content. Puis-je aller aux toilettes? Je veux pas de l'eau. J'ai soif.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Jamil et je suis votre prof pour cette semaine. Aujourd'hui, nous allons apprendre la différence entre le voudrais et je veux. Je voudrais un papier, s'il vous plaît.
Oh, Jamil, ça va?
Ça va bien.
D'accord.
Merci.
D'accord, au revoir.
Au revoir. Je veux mon crayon. Tiens.
je m'appelle Saraloua et bienvenue dans la cuisine de ma petite France. Normalement, quels sont les objets que vous allez trouver dans la cuisine? D'accord, je vais vous montrer. Suivez-moi! Voici le réfrigérateur, mélanger de café, micro-ondes, la cuillère, la fourchette et les assiettes.
Salut, je m'appelle Daki. Aujourd'hui, nous allons préparer des crêpes délicieuses. Les ingrédients sont de la farine, du œufs, du lait, de la vanille, du sel, du sucre et du beurre.
Coucou, je m'appelle Peaches. Pour préparer des crêpes, le matériel sont
Une louche, un fouet, un grand saladier, une poêle et une spatule.
So as not to waste our time, basically, the point of showing you that video was to show that, was to prove that it is in fact possible for our kids to start learning early and be able to speak. So it's not about identifying objects alone. Oh, that is a pencil, c'est un crayon, c'est un stylo, c'est, you know, and all of this little things, but to actually be able to string words together and make sentences, you know, independently. So yes, it is in fact possible. Now, what are the ways we can encourage learning? I'm going to go really quick. Creating an immersive environment even in the class, but yes, in school, in your own institution, create an immersive environment where these children are able, the students are able to learn effectively. A practical curriculum that improves the major competencies. So when you look at most curriculums, it's usually just identification and conjugation. Obviously, conjugation is the bedrock of sentence formation in French, but then there is also a way to effectively manage it so that it doesn't just look difficult. I remember in school or growing up, that was one of the things I really didn't like about French, conjugation. But who is going to tell the students that they can't run away from it? The next is extracurricular activities. This is the only way you can make it fun and engaging for them. And I do not subscribe to the thought or the belief that everybody needs to be in French class or in French club. I think it should solely be based on interest so that you can manage the people who are there with you. If you have, for example, 30, 40, 50 students in a classroom or in a club setting, it's very possible that you will not be able to effectively engage them. But if you have only those who show interest in it, then you can work with them. You can then develop drama, poems, cultural activities, and you know, all of that. You also have excursions. So let them take this language out of the classroom, right? If it's just taught in the classroom alone, it's forever going to be a textbook language. So they will not see it in the real sense of it being a living language that is spoken and people used to interact. So if in your French department in school, you decide to inculcate excursion programs where they get to visit Francophone countries and meet native speakers and actually apply what it is that they've learned in class, you know, out in the open, it kind of like boosts their interest in the language. So we also have the MPF Explore Center where they get to come around and, you know, learn the French language and culture and all of, you know, those other things alongside our MPF competition. And then, to be honest, I think the cherry at the top really, or the major motivation for the students is that you want to make them open to global opportunities. Not even now, post-COVID, that everything is digital, right? I know before 2020, we would have had to think of getting a
space, a physical space, and flying our keynote speaker down from from where he is, and lodge him in a hotel, and just giving him the whole presidential treatment. But thankfully, due to COVID, we can have this meeting virtually, right? And then and you can join in from any part of the world. So you have this kind of opportunity. We have so people are able to work. What was it? Travailler à distance. What's it in English? I don't know why I've forgotten it in English. Work from home, right? So they can work anywhere and get things done. So basically, we are preparing our students not for local opportunities, not for national things, but to be able to compete on the global stage. So I'm going to hand over to Miss Jochebed Newell again, so she can do the needful and bring in our bongo di bongo person. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and mute myself.
Oh la la, I'm so sorry. Je m'excuse, I've been talking to myself all along. Thank you so much, Miss Oluwatosin Adeshino. So she said a lot of things, but some of the things I got from it was that we hope to raise kids that don't just understand only bonjour and ça va, but they are able to communicate and understand effectively. And then another thing she mentioned was that the interests of these kids are important, because sometimes you force them to learn something, and not that they are not smart enough to learn it, but they are not interested. And French language is very expressive. I say it's a very dramatic language. So the interest is also important. Thank you so much once again, Ms. Oluwatosin Additional. And now for our keynote speech. I mean, this is someone who is well vested in the French language industry. It's such a great delight to have here with us today, Dr. Alani Suleiman. And I will do us the honor of reading his biography. It's such a mouthful, so please pay attention. Dr. Alani Suleiman is the coordinator of postgraduate program in the French department of the University of Ibadan, and he's a seasoned translator, conference interpreter, and trainer. He holds a doctorate degree in French from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. He has received several trainings in Nigeria and France, CIEP in Nantes and CCIP in Paris, on teaching French as a foreign language and the use of French for specific purposes. He's dedicating his time online teaching and training in French language through My French World Network. He's one of the country administrators of IF Profs, a social network of French professionals in the world. So ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Dr. Alani Suleiman to our, Zoom podium. As he speaks with us on the benefits of reaping, he just encapsulates the whole thing of what is the essence, why French, why French. So please, sir, you're welcome, and please, you can take the stage. Okay, let's just give okay, d'accord.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to first thank the organizers of this program, and appreciate the fact that they have chosen me to say a few things about their program, which is French language education in Nigeria. It's just 20 minutes, so I have so much to say, and I hope that trying to cut what I want to say to remain within, it will still remain something for people to take home. All right, we understand that as Nigerians, we have a linguistic ecology made up of our mother tongue, Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo. If we are minority speakers, we may have Efik, Ibibio, etc. And for those speaking those minority languages, they also be thinking about speaking the majority languages. And in school, we have to learn English, which is the official language. In the market, we think about PG language. It's after those languages, we now start thinking of the other foreign languages, among which we have French, which happen to be the second official language in code. Now, but we notice that the Nigerian attitude towards the acquisition of that language is the lackadaisical one. And our diplomats, government officials, and politicians, when they go out or when they have international meetings, they fail the nation woefully because they have to rely heavily and spend money on translators and interpreters. And because of that, decisions taken are not usually in our favor. Usually the French vote in blocks. Even in Africa, they rather vote for the French-speaking representative than for Nigerian representatives. How you can hear me? Can I move on?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Why are we that lackadaisical about the French language? We learned from history that in 1961, France tested an atomic bomb in the Sahara Desert in Africa, and Nigeria was not happy. And then they kicked against it. And from then on, France was not happy with Nigeria, trying to prove the big brother in Africa and defend the weaker nation. And that's why we noticed that during the Biafran War, they supported Biafra. And we also noticed that their intervention or suspected intervention made Nigeria to lose Bakassi to Cameroon. And we now say, what's next? Because what France is trying to do is simply to protect its national interest and hegemonic expansion in Africa. But those interests are also characterized by investment in Nigeria. Nigeria is the country that invests most in Africa, especially West Africa. So they cannot continue to play the rival against Nigeria to undermine our growth. So they have to cooperate with Nigeria because of our position also. And for that cooperation, they try to they help us fight Boko Haram by asking Cameroon, Chad, and I think Niger to constitute a common front to help us fight the Boko Haram. That's why we urge Nigerians to not wait for the government or about their efforts about the French language, that we should take the bull by the horn and realize how important French is for us, for our national development, and also for our individual development. Any developed country, for instance, the US, they have a foreign language policy. In the US, after English, they make their citizens to be interested in Spanish and also Chinese Mandarin, the language spoken in China, because that's what their economic interests will lead them to. We also need to, for that reason, ask Nigerian government to have a serious policy, language policy, because it's that lack of policy, that lack of seriousness about the French language that really gave us problem in tackling Boko Haram, because it took time for the French-speaking nations to really rally around Nigeria to fight it. And now that French has helped that, we can see the result that Boko Haram is weakened. We had the 2000 Eastern Conference in 2015, where some professors UFAN is a University French Teachers Association of Nigeria. We had a conference in the University of Ibadan about the topic, the interplay between France and Nigeria, the relationship. And professors came and they say that we really need to be serious with the language. And why do we need so? It's because when they go to international organization or meeting, the voting pattern is where France asks the Francophone speaking countries to vote, that they vote. And because Nigerian officials do not speak French, they don't relate. And because they don't relate, they will vote for those they relate with. So a professor like Raji Oyelade advised us to really be serious with French so that when we relate with Francophone speaking people, we can have access to international positions. And they also say that the French, the Francophone people, they really want to associate with Nigeria internationally. But because we don't speak their language, they used to think that we are proud and we are arrogant. And because of that, they really try to keep away from us. Needless to speak about the importance of the French language to us. There are a lot of literature, and we also talked about how important it is to us as Nigerians. I now move to the next item and talk about how is French handled in Nigeria. We heard in 1996 that French has become the second official language. And before and after that declaration, we have not seen effort by the Nigerian government to really implement it as second official language. Though we know that we are teaching French at the university level, sometimes in the secondary public school, French language villages there. We also have a cooperation between the French government and the Nigerian government. At the federal level, we have the Nigerian French Language Project. And at the state level, we have the Center for French Text and Documentation called CFTD, which I happen to consult at the level of Ibadan, because I've helped them to train French teachers in the Southwest. And I'm still a resource person. We continue training them. We also have centers manned by the French government, like the Institut Français, the Alliance Française, and the CFTD that I just mentioned. And we should not forget the efforts of individual people, especially and private owners of secondary school and centers like my Petite France that invited me today. And I really commend your effort. And you are a force to reckon with when it comes to French in Nigeria. You've noticed that you discuss about my French words and my efforts online to help really propagate, share French resources. And when you guys, the Ma Petite France started their own operation, it really made me to relax a little bit. That's what I was expecting from Nigerians. And I thank you for easing my task towards the development of French in Nigeria. And I hope people will really tap into the resources and what you have to offer. Now, I hope we are owners of centers, we are stakeholders in French. And for that, we have to talk about what it takes or what we need in a standard center. And I hope you are going to learn one or two things. I know you know most of those things. Like in a center, we have to think about the learner, the teacher, and the resources. At the learner's level, the learner must always be motivated. And the motivation should be motivated to come to that center, to be a customer to you. And then once the learner is not a customer, it should be motivated during classes. From the beginning to the end, you should make sure that the learner is enjoying his classes. And for the learner to enjoy after enjoying the class, you should also motivate the learner, create a communication between the center and the learner outside the class, that will keep the learner motivated and feel like coming back, or be very happy to expect the following meeting with the center. That is at the level of the learner. And then the teachers that are involved, the teacher and the staff, especially at that level, at the level of the teacher, proficiency is key. You are not going to employ somebody because of the certificate he's displaying. You are not going to employ me because of the PhD I own or the master's. No, you are going to employ me because of the proficiency I have in the language. And besides the proficiency in the language is also the ability to understand the various shapes, the registers in the language. How do I know when to be informal? How do I know when to be formal? So it's not just about understanding the language, but also really knowing how to manipulate it according to the situation. And that should be key. But of course, it's difficult to have a complete teacher, a totally competent and highly skilled teacher. No problem. But at least you should work on the proficiency of the teacher. You should also work on the training, continuous training of the teacher. And any teacher, before the teacher enters class, there should be an initial training, initial test to know is the teacher efficient enough to handle class. You just don't push people. Somebody comes, you say he's a good teacher from somewhere, and then you push the teacher in the classroom to handle your program. There should be a pretest. There should be a way. Test is not just writing, just a way to know that the person has enough to really satisfy the student. We also now go to the resources. When we talk resources, what do you have to offer? The books, the internet resources, the videos, etc. Who is managing them? There must be somebody who knows how to handle resources. A librarian, an IT official, and somebody who is versatile, that you should know how to handle the resources that you have, whether material resources that you can handle or online resources. It is important. These are the key factors for a center to run efficiently. And I give you an example. In I consult with the CFPB. I've been consulting since 2006. In 2007, we asked the director to really organize the resource center. And right there in 2008, we conducted a research with my questionnaire and realized that there has been a 261% increase in people borrowing books in the resource center. In the resource center, they also have an IT official. I did not assess their IT usage. They just general usage. We noticed a 261% increase, more than double. And then now we come to the knowledge of the teacher. And at that level, we're not talking about the teaching methodologies and methods. One, what is the methodologies you are teaching? I know you are using the right methodologies there, but I'm talking globally, generally, for anyone, any stakeholder. Which methodology is guiding the teaching of French in our center? One, our teachers, they should understand the various methodologies that are available. The traditional one that we usually see in the university, somebody just listing the rule and expecting to use vocabulary and the grammar you learn to now learn on your own. That makes people graduate and not be able to really communicate. You notice that? We also have the direct method that the Francophone like, because they can speak fluently. So when they're in class, they just want to be speaking French throughout. And then it's really irritating to the students who have no idea. There's a disconnect between them. Sometimes we also think about the audiovisual. A lecturer, a teacher should have an idea about how to use audiovisual. But the most important is the ability to know the task-based method. What is task-based? That is the methodology that makes you to make the student, that's the objective, is to make the student be able to communicate in any circumstance in life. And also realize some tasks. What do I mean? It means that when I have a student in my class and I know the needs of the student, maybe the person wants to spend 1 week in France. The French I'm going to teach that person to be able to make him to really enter the plane, disembark from the plane, be able to converse with the custom officers, take a train or a transportation, etc., till it comes back to Nigeria. That is task-based learning that the teacher should know. Nowadays, teachers also should complement that learning with IT usage. IT usage will now make you to really interact online with students. A phone, a laptop, internet, being able to know where the resources are online and be able to really create a kind of program that will be in continuation with the that will be supplementary to the physical connection, the physical class that you're having. And then I want to share some more lessons that we got from the handling of Alliance Française Ibadan. That the survey has shown that most people who come to Alliance are young, between 18 and 25 years. That's the majority of people that are really interested in French. Though we notice that for you to really have a native way, to speak like a native, you have to start early till the age of 10, 12, because that's where you can play. Your tongue is soft. That's where you make mistakes. And then you are not ashamed making mistakes. But most customers that we are having at the Alliance then was 18 to 25, mature students, people who will be ashamed of making mistakes. And because of that shame, they really cannot grasp the language and to a way that they will speak like a native speaker. Though some do manage. And then most of them really want to improve and have a job, better chances of job opportunity. And then as a center, you have to advertise yourself. And then we notice that in the case of the Alliance Française, it's people talking to mass talk. That really brought most people. Though we have the internet, there is a low percentage. We have brochures, we have posters. So you should find a way that the people you are teaching will be your best marketers. That is the student, when they go home, the parent they talk to, the parents' friends, the friends and the friends of the parents. That is the major way of marketing yourself. Where are you located physically? How is it easy to access your center? Beyond the physical location, how is it also easy to access you online? These are parameters that we have to think in attracting learners. And how do you source for your, if they say if the mountain doesn't come to Mohammed will also go to the mountain. The center has to find a way to really try to see where are the customers and then reach them and find a way now to really communicate. Either bringing them to the center or going to meet them or finding a way to have an online communication, online interaction that will really make the work to go on. We notice that in the resource center that the TV that is there is not used. Why is it not used? Because people sit down and they really don't understand what is going on, which means that when you have resources, you also have to assist the learners or the customers on how to handle those resources. A kind of customized way, seeing side by side. This is how it works. This is what you need for your class. So that kind of assistance is also needed for class. And we should know that we have individual needs as learners. And you just don't lump people in a class and then be teaching them the same thing. We need to understand individual needs of the learners and now to see how to address them. And lastly, I hope I've not taken too much of your time.
No, sir, you haven't.
How many minutes have I used? Because I jumped a lot of things.
Okay, you just have it. You are almost, your time is, I mean, you've managed the time very well, sir. So you just have like 5 more minutes. So
thank you. Because one thing I taught my students, including somebody among you that I don't want to mention the name, is really not to talk beyond the time allocated. And I have to lead by example. So she already mentioned that it is really important to start early with the children, because that is where when they are exposed early, they have no pressure. But one thing we have to take in mind is that now the children that we are having, they don't have the pressure of the adult. They don't have the pressure of the PG language. They don't have the pressure of even our national languages. Most of our children, the first language they're exposed to is English. Why not use the opportunity to just throw in French for them? It's not too much. In fact, it doesn't kill anybody. In fact, it develops them. It develops them. So we now notice that the earlier they start, because there is a number of hours of interaction with that language that we have to achieve a level of proficiency. People notice 400 hours for a first language, and it can move up to 700 hours. How do we now want to go through those hours? We notice that for a maximum hours of teaching in the Alliance, I noticed that to achieve the A level, the beginner's level, A1, we need 80 hours. 80 hours. Now, how will you apportion the 80 hours is up to you. Is that full 80 hours in class? Is that 20 minutes in class and the remaining online? Or is that a few in class online and then pushing them to also do some activities on their own? It's up to you to design a package that will make them have a 80 hours maximum interaction with French to achieve the A1. We have 80 for A2. We have 160 for B1. And you know, B1 level is that at that level, you can go to any French-speaking country and find your level. You may not be competent. You may not have correct grammar, but you can do anything. You can buy. You can enter public transport. You can come back and survive. At that level, you can survive. But to arrive at that level, you will have put in a maximum of 320 hours. The same thing goes for the B2. At that level now, you are perfecting your language. And then C1, you are advanced. And that gives between 700 to 760 hours. And that's why the earlier we start, it means that our children will really have proficiency. And then when they now grow up, they can now be thinking, because everybody is talking of coding, AI, robotics, etc., etc. Let them start with the language where they don't have the brain to code now. Let them play and enjoy the language, and then use that language, and then maybe they can now start thinking about other skills. And those skills, when they have, plus the additional foreign language they have, will now open them up to international opportunities. And at this level, I think I will start taking personal example till you tell me time is up. Now, starting early is very important, and also using language in the environment is important. In my own case now, my mother tongue is supposed to be Yoruba, but I didn't grow up among the Yoruba. So my Yoruba is very weak. But because I started early with the French language, it looks like my mother tongue. So that example, that should be enough example to really ask our children to start early. With this one, I would like to conclude that French is very important for us personally and at the national level. Like any other level, we have to put in enough effort that is needed, and the earlier the better. And we should also know that children are not our only customers. We should also be ready for any type of customers, even the aged, 60, 70. We should not close ourselves. And for those people, we should now define packages that will make them understand with the least stress possible. And for that, your center and people like me are available for further talks and engagement. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Alani Suleiman. I mean, that was a lot. I learned a lot, and I'm sure a lot of us are not just listening, but it's important that we also take down things that we're going to change. As an agency, we do most of these things, but then I've written down some things that, oh, I'm saying that, oh, in my department, we need to work on this, we need to work on that. And then some of the things Dr. Alani Suleiman mentioned was, it's a language, and then at some point we have to be serious about this. You have to be serious about this language in your school. He talked about international collation, he talked about language barrier, and he also emphasized the fact why we start early, just like Miss Oluwatosi Additional had said. For me, I started French in university, and trust me, I was ashamed to make mistakes. And so, I mean, that when he said something like, oh, he's talking to me, this is me. So it's important that we start up these kids early so that by the time they get to university, they now speak like the Francophone, because like Dr. Alani said, the Francophones amongst us will just go on, and then you're like, can these people just keep quiet already? Thank you so much once again, Dr. Alani Suleiman. Thank you so much. It's such a privilege to have you speak with us. Okay, now it's not enough to just know these things as school owners, right? It's not going to make any difference if we just know it and then we do not have people that follow in line with making the French language immersive and engaging enough for the students. And so that brings up to our next speaker, Monsieur John Kehinde, who is the coordinator of tutorials at Ma Petite France, who is going to be telling us what to look out for when selecting the French language teacher for our schools based on methods and methodologies. Though Dr. Alani Suleiman has picked some things on methodologies. So Monsieur John Kehinde is just going to be talking to us on what to look out for when selecting a French language learning teacher. Thank you so much, Monsieur John. It's such a delight. It's such a pleasure to have you in our midst today. Please take the stage. Our Zoom imaginary stage.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. Bonjour à vous tous. Bonjour à vous tous. I'm so delighted to be here this afternoon. I'm happy to see these beautiful and wonderful faces. Now, would I say, standing on the existing protocol, I would like to really appreciate Dr. Alani Suleiman for this very vast knowledge he has given every one of us on raising our children bilingual and seeing the importance of French language at the early stage. And also, I would like to also thank the director of Ma Petite France, in person of Ms. Tosin Additional, for this opportunity given to me to speak about the things to look out for while employing the best French language teacher for your school. And also, I also welcome everyone who is present here, heads of schools, principals, HR personnel, and people present here. So today I'll be talking about the things to consider, follow, and look out for when employing the best French language teacher for your schools. Now, you know, there is no school, or would I say, many schools do have their French language teachers, and it's going to be a bit weird if we have a school who doesn't have a French language teacher. So today, what are those things? What are those qualities? What are those important things we need to look out for? Now, first of all, we have a good French language teacher must be able to express himself or herself fluently in both language. Now, this talks about the English and the French language. That is the bilingual aspect, being bilingual. So I'm going to give an example here to everyone. Now, how do you know the best French language teacher for your school? Now, I'll give an example of something that happened. A school actually reached out to me sometime, and they said they would like to know. How would they know if the French language teacher they are to employ would be the best for them and would also help facilitate the learning of French language among their pupils? So I told them that fine, we can actually organize a Zoom meeting in sort of an interview with the French language teacher for some minutes. so I can actually test the ability of the French language teacher. We can actually converse for some minutes and also have a bit micro teaching, what I can say, in French language. So it went like that, and we had the Zoom meeting. The head of schools was present there, and other important people, whereby the French teacher came online. And so I was so surprised because the French language teacher was not a Nigerian per se, because I know many schools are always interested in bidding for someone who is not a French language teacher, who is not in Nigeria, forgetting that we also have a lot of French graduates who are qualified to be French language teachers in schools. So speaking with the person, conversing with the person, I discovered that the person really could not express himself in English language, but was really fluent in the French language. So that takes us to being what? Bilingual. Now, the person could communicate fluently in French, but couldn't really communicate fluently in English with us. So we used ourselves as a case of study, like he used to teach us as the pupils or the students. And from there, we discovered that he was unable to communicate in English. So we asked him a question that, now, why, since you can communicate in English properly, how would it be possible for you to achieve the set goal of being bilingual to your kids? That is speaking in English and speaking in French. For example, you're teaching a child and the child doesn't understand what you're saying in French. So how do you put it in another language to the child or to the learner in the classroom, which in that aspect, he realized that he really needed to be bilingual. And also a mini micro teaching was given to him, which he was, to a certain level, he was able to prove that he is a French language teacher. So I move to the next one. He or she must be democratic and have a set goal, possess good teaching skills, and with a language competence. Now, there are two things here. Now, being democratic, you can't be a qualified teacher and you're being autocratic to your learners. That is, you have to give your learners the opportunity to express themselves. You must be able to tolerate your learners, no matter, like, for example, mistakes are bound to happen when you are learning a language which is not your maternal language. So when the mistakes occurs, as a teacher, how would you be able to manage that? How would you be able to familiarize yourself with your learners and the classroom to make the teaching and learning effective? Also, we talk about a good teaching skills with a language competence. Now, in French language or learning a language generally, we have the 4 major competencies, which are the speaking competence, the reading competence, the listening competence, and the writing competences. So these 4 competencies are very essential in learning a language, not just French language, but languages generally. So for your child to be bilingual, or for your students to be bilingual as a French language teacher, we must look out for these attributes on the French language teacher. That is, the French language teacher should be able to make use of these 4 competences, learning competences, in achieving the set goal of learning French language. So move to the next one, the proper use of board and classroom management. Now, you need to look out for this attribute as well in your teacher or in anyone you are to employ to teach the French as a language in your school. Now, you discover that some teachers don't know how to make use of the board in the classroom. They just come into the classroom and they just start writing on the board. They don't rule the board, they don't write the dates, they don't write the topics in the appropriate places where they have to write them. And also, you can just enter the classroom and you discover that the class is not well organized. You see the children moving around, you see the children making some noise in the classroom. And according to education, you know that for learning to take place, the environment must be what? Must be a bit calm, more calm for the learners, and must be conducive for the learners to learn. Then also we have understand the rules and procedures of teaching French as a foreign language. Now, not everyone can teach French, and not everyone is qualified to teach French as a language. Why did I say this? Because the fact that you speak French language fluently doesn't mean that you have the method, or you know the method or methodology, the right methodology to teach the French as a foreign language. Now, that is why you, as a looking out for a good French language teacher in your school, he or she must be able to possess these attributes, that is the set rules of teaching French as a foreign language. He or she must be, like, for example, we have the grammar competence, the comprehension passages and the likes. We have the listening exercise, the quotes. So he or she must be familiar to all these techniques and rules or procedures in passing the knowledge of French language to the learners. Then also we have, he or she must be able to update, he or she must be updated psychologically and technologically. So I talk about this psychological aspect because you must be able to understand your learners. So this talks about you as a teacher understanding your learners, understanding the people around you. Because, for example, you come into the classroom to teach French as a foreign language, knowing that English is the major spoken language of the children, and you know they are just new to learning French as a language. Now, if you don't understand that ideology, or you don't have that ideology that's psychologically, that the language is a foreign language to the children, and you are teaching them and they don't seem to really understand, you can get angry and say, oh, I've been teaching you, you don't understand, you don't seem to really pick up what I'm saying. So that is why a qualified teacher, a professional French language teacher should be able to consider this part. Then also technologically, I know that we are in a modern world now in which most schools, if you go to most schools, you see them make use of an interactive board, projecting their classrooms, animating their classrooms to make the learning fun and interesting for the children. So for you as a teacher, these are part of the things to look out for in a French language teacher. He or she must be able to make use of the technological aspects. That is, he or she must be able to animate his or her classroom, making the learning of French language fun. He or she must be able to make use of other learning resources, technological learning resources that can pass relevant information to the learners in the classroom. So I move to the next one. He or she must be able to animate. I just spoke about that, animate the class in a manner that will attract the learners and make teaching fun for them in the classroom. Then the next one, he or she must be able to prepare learners for the national examinations, such as Junior WAEC and Senior WAEC NECO. Now, for you to actually employ a French language teacher who is to teach your pupils or your students from the elementary level or the college level, a French language teacher should be able to prep the students he or she is teaching at the GS3 level or the SS3 level for the Junior WAEC, because these are part of the things the major schools look out for in French language teachers. So from our end in Ma Petite France, while giving you the best tutor for your schools, all our tutors are actually qualified and ready to prepare pupils or students for these examinations. Then I move to the last one here today. He or she must be qualified in preparing learners for international proficiency examinations, such as the DELF exams. So these international proficiency examinations is an examination from the Ministry of France. So this exam is to really help the French learners, those who have been learning French for a particular period of time, from ages 7 upward. So we have the DELF Prim A1.1, the A1, DELF Junior, Senior, the IGCSE, the checkpoints examination. So from our end in Ma Petite France, majority of our children, I'll say majority of them do write these international proficiency examinations, and we have recorded great success and tremendous records and successes among our children, whereby that we have on 99, 96, over 100 and the likes. So from our end here, we do prepare our children for the DELF international proficiency examinations, and all our tutors are capable to prepare our children, or teachers are capable to prepare our children or your children for this examination. So I'm going to stop here for today. I know if you have your questions, you can kindly drop your questions in the commentary section. Merci beaucoup à vous tous. Thank you very much to everyone. I really appreciate this opportunity given to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Monsieur John Kennedy Alavi. Thank you very much for that wonderful speech. Okay, so we have a question here. The person says, I have heard people saying that they just want a teacher that speaks only French so that the children will learn faster, since the teacher won't be able to communicate in English. How true is that? Is it really beneficial? So Dr. Alani Suleiman, please, could you kindly just help us with that? Also add something to what Monsieur John Kennedy has already said.
Yes, willingly. First of all, we should know that we are service providers. And when a client brings a request, we should not reject it. We should not say it's impossible. But we should see how to make it possible. But before making it possible, there are questions we need to ask and reason together with the person, the commanditaire, the person who is making the request. Is that child you want to, that French is only spoken to, has he been undergoing some other French training somewhere? Because you know that in the Alliance, we also have conversational class. That is, we have people who have learned French at the university. But because they cannot converse, they come there because they just want to be speaking French. So if the child has been having French lesson with somebody else, and they say I should come to now handle that conversational level, if I have that information and it's right that he has already the prerequisite side to engage in conversation, it's possible. But if it is a tabula rasa, no knowledge, nothing, beginner, like the first discussions I said, we have to make the father, the person who is making the request, to understand how difficult, not impossible, never say impossible for a customer before they go and look for another person. Just read the body language and then find a way. They are going to do a lot of sign language. So if that's the request, the person doesn't understand French, nothing, and he said that's what he wants. Then you won't allow the money to go. Then you mean that you are going to do a lot of sign language to that. So, but I think to say the truth, that the communication is key. And then for a beginner who doesn't have the French, it means that the teacher should find a way of communicating in the teaching of the French. I think that's the challenge I put back to us, because how many customers do we have to now say to the customer that is not possible? Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay, so there's another question we have here, and would like Dr. Alani Suleiman to also answer. The person says, like, I know I said this earlier, but I think the person is still in doubt. Is it truly possible to become bilingual? You know, we have some people working here and say, I have 1 year, and after 1 year, I just want to write TEF. So they give us this time limit. So is it truly possible to be bilingual? And what time frame, and how long would it actually take to be truly bilingual?
Yes, we discussed the level. I've sent a document to Tosin. If you open and put a table, the maximum hours needed, so you can do minimum. That now, when you say to be bilingual, there are levels of proficiency. Do you want to be bilingual in just being able to talk about your immediate environment, little things, small sentences, speaking slowly, and then it means that you just need 80 hours to have a A1 level? Do you want to speak more about your environment, being able to make 2 sentences, combined with body language, use your vocabulary, not good English, not good French, and then push 2-3 sentences, ask simple questions, and then the person sitting with you cooperate and ready to repeat? This is also a level of bilingualism, and that is A2. Do you just want a level that, okay, I don't want to be perfect in French, but I just want to find my level anywhere I find myself? That is also another level. That is another 160 hours of French. So it depends on the package. what level of proficiency the candidate wants. And then we now calculate the number of time of exposure to the language the person needs. You want to be perfect, like us speaking, then you should be ready to put 700 hours. And now we now sit down. How do we now apportion the 700 hours? You want 1 month? Let's calculate how you want to share in your program to do the 700. So that's why I'm saying you will not tell somebody it's not possible. You put the package, it's like a menu. Like DSTV, you have confirm, you have compact, you have premium. So which level of proficiency do you want to attain? So the person will choose and say, that is the minimum and the maximum number of hours of exposure. And when you say hours of exposure, it doesn't have to be interaction between the center and the candidate. It's just the person's finding way to interact. Now, depending on how much the person can afford, because I have how much I charge per hour. So if you can afford only 20 out of the 200 hours, no problem. Then the 20 will be me guiding you when we are together, and then also giving you links, assignments, so that you will have to meet other people, have other resources that will expose you to that minimum number of hours that you need to acquire, have the proficiency of the set level that we agree on.
Thank you so much, sir, for that response. So you have to, it's more of dedication, it's more of consistency. It's not just that when the tutor gives an assignment, you just zoom off. I mean, it's more of putting intention, it's an intentional effort if you want to be truly bilingual. Thank you so much, Dr. Alani Suleiman. And so moving on, would be discussing, we have here with us Mademoiselle Ella Oduaro, the language learning resource sales rep of Ma Petite France, who will be showing us some resources of the French language and why it is important. We've talked about making the French interactive and engaging. You know, Doctor talked about making the students motivating the students before, during, and even after class. So Mademoiselle Emanuela will be showing us different resources and why it is important to actually animate our classrooms, equip our library to make this French language learning journey very immersive, very engaging. Mademoiselle Ella, please.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to see many people attending this very important meeting that will going to help us in our education curriculum system in Nigeria. And I'm not going to start my speech without saying a big thank you to our keystone speaker, Dr. Adim. God bless you for your wonderful speech. I learned a lot. And also Ms. Tosi for her own speech, and Mr. John also. But before I start my speech, I would like to pick something from everything everybody has said, which is this possible? And there was a question that asked here, is this language possible for the students? Yes, it's very possible, because when Madam Tosi was presenting her own speech, she shared some videos of some of our kids. And if you look at them, some of them are 5 years, 6 years old. If they can be able to speak this language like this, we also can be able to do that. And some students can also do that more than them. So in our education system, we have French language learning resources. We all know that there are many resources we have, but for French language, what are these resources? And to start with my speech, learning French or learning materials, they are resources that the teachers or the instructors may use to carry out instructions and facilitate the achievement of the students or learners' educational goals. And these achievements can be the 4 major language competencies we have, like Mr. John said earlier, which are reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Can these kids be able to read, speak, and write in the simple way? And these resources can also be used by the teachers and also by the students. But what are these resources? I'm going to go straight to the page of these resources. But before I will do that, I would like to share the benefits of these resources in our education curriculum system, which are, it makes teaching and the learning easier, both for teachers and for students. It helps the students to retain information easily. For example, when you are dealing with students, psychologically, you have to know their behavior, you have to know those that learn fast. But students like when they touch and they feel what you are teaching them, not only to talk and speak, but when you show them these materials, it can be audiovisual, it can be flashcard, it can be YouTube videos, it can be in form of games, e-resources, postcards, stories, books, and so on and so forth. When they touch it and they feel it and practice with this, it can help them to retain the information easy and makes the learning and teaching real for them and also fun. Now, these instructional materials we have for French language, we know that in Nigeria, one of the problem and the question people used to ask is, why is it that a student, after learning French in primary school, in secondary school, and also move further to study it in university, still find it difficult to be able to express him or herself in a simple expression in French? Why? One of the problem is we lack learning resources of this language. In some schools, you see that some schools have library, and if you go to the library, you see that they have resources for other subjects, English, mathematics. Why can't we start having resources for French language, since our country is surrounded with a French Francophonie countries? Like our Keystone speaker said earlier, he said this language is very important in our society. Now, what I have here is, the first one is Le Français pour le Petit. This is French for younger ones. And if you look at the cover page of this book, you will see that the animation we even attract the kids to know what is inside this book. This can help them to know the French alphabet, the numbers in French, the animals, whether white animals or domestic, the objects. We also have so présenter. Can they be able to present themselves in French? This so présenter can help them in the earlier age. Earlier is the best. It can help them to learn how to say, I am this, I am a girl, I'm from Nigeria, I like speaking this. We also have a resources we call Les Normes. Like I said, the 4 competencies: reading, speaking, writing, and the listening. When it comes to reading, they can use these books, Les Nombres, numbers in French. Can they be able to say 1 + 1 in French, and can they be able to count numbers from 1 to 100 in French? We have this we call un se rencontre. Un se rencontre means we meet ourselves. Can these students be able to say the first things you say when you meet someone for the first time in French? Then we have what we call My French Language activity books. This book comes in different levels: for primary, for secondary, and also for nursery class. If you look at this one, we have is for age 3 to 5 years old. We have age 6 to 5, age 6 to 9 years old, and we have age 10 to 12 years old. This activity book can even help teaching easier for the teacher. After teaching them, the teacher can say, okay, take page 2, do the assignment, they can take it home. You can also recommend this book for your school. The teacher can use it as resources in learning this language. We have what we call everyday French expressions. The expressions we use in English, can they be able to express this expression also in French language? When it comes to reading aspects, we have moi et ma famille, I and my family. These are for age 5 to 8 years. You see that year 1, year 2, year 3 can also make use of this. If it comes for reading aspects, you can also use this book. And inside it is a simple French they can be able to understand under their level. We have Au marché avec maman, going to the market with my mother, from age 9 to 12 years old. This can also be good for reading aspects in school. We have ma famille, my family. Can they be able to describe the different members in their family in French? Not only saying the names, but make sentence in it. Now, we have what we call activity boards. Like I said earlier, these resources can be audiovisual, it can be real objects. When you are dealing with a student or maybe a kid of 5 or 6 years old, after talking and maybe it's time for break, the child can easily forget what you teach them. But if they can be able to practice and touch this activity and feel it, these resources, they can be able to remember it. This activity box is in form of a real object. And what is inside it? It comes in different level. What we have there is a puzzle game, a game that can teach them everything in French, depending on their level of their class. Maybe it's year 1 or year 2. They can be able to make simple sentence, simple verbs or words in French. Now, with this activity box, we have age 3 to 5 years old mini. We have age 6 to 9 mini. We have age 6 to 9 max. We have age 10 up and the super max. In this activity box, one of the benefits of this activity box is the students can practice this language without even the help of the teacher, because there are games inside, there are everything they need to know depending on the class they are. And some of the schools used to recommend this activity box because if in your library, in your school, you have resources for English, mathematics, you can also have this activity box in your school, or you can recommend each child to have it, because kids love when they are learning, they have their own material. You can say, open your activity box, bring out numbers in French, play the game. You see the learning is fun for them. You can keep it in the library. Even the French teacher finish teaching and maybe the person wants to leave your school. If another French teacher comes, it will not be difficult for the French teacher because these resources are in the library there waiting for them to use with the kids. Now we have what we call French language activity folder. If you look at it very well, you will see that it's for both nursery, primary, and secondary. If these kids can be able to speak English and other language, they can also do well in French. But what are the resources are you making use of to teach them? And this folder has almost 100 plus activity worksheets for different levels. After teaching them, let's say, for example, you teach them animals in French, you can open this folder and look for a folder based on that topic. You can photocopy it and give it to them. They can go home with it, come the next day, and you can see that they are participating. Even they can even in exam. Now, when it comes to textbook, like I said, we also have textbooks. We have textbook like can prepare them for deaf prim exam. Like Mr. Jean, when he was saying, he said, this teacher, can they be able to prepare them for international exam, like what we call deaf prim? Our Keystone speaker also, Dr. Amin, also said that we have A1, we have A2, we have textbook that can help them. Linguistic, it can help them to listen, to speak, write, and also be able to read. We have deaf prim. These are the textbooks that can help them, not forgetting dictionaries. Can they be able to know the meaning of this? And also we have what we call the storybooks. We have storybooks, but before I go to that place, let's look at these resources of this page we have. We have posters. Like I have visited some schools, and when I enter this school, I see that their environments have posters of different languages in their classrooms, the conducive environment. You can also have these posters in different language, numbers in French, qu'est-ce que tu fais, what are you doing, everyday expression, the verbs, and everything. You can paste it in your school environment, in the classroom. When they enter this class, they will be like, oh, I'm also learning French. Okay, what is this? If the person has forgotten, the person can be able to remember because of the resources they have in each classroom. We also have what we call the storybooks. And if you look at this storybook, you can see that it's even some of the cartoons they love watching, like Miracle Nest, PJ Masks, but these are in French. The animation will attract them. What are these resources you use to teach them? Like I said earlier, we have games, we have flashcards, like a quiz games. We have different games that you can use after teaching them. You can show them the image and say, what is this? And they can be able to remember because they have already taught these materials and they practice it with the teacher. These are also the textbook. These are the flashcard, like a games. Now we have what we call e-resources. I cannot finish my speech without saying the e-resources. These e-resources comes of USB, which is very, very important. And these e-resources are some schools that do projecting their topics in the classroom. They can get this e-resource, which is in form of USB. And inside it, there are worksheets, games, and activities that can even make the learning easier for the teacher and for the students. We also have what we call, let's help you build your school French library. If in your school you have library that when the kids enter, they can find different resources. And you know that sometimes now kids find it difficult to go to library. You can also put these resources in the library and give them activities that can push them to go into the library and find these resources. We can also come and help and decorate your library with these resources. Now, before my speech, I would like to talk about the French language room. Like, for example, in schools, we have laboratory rooms, we have computer room. Like, for example, when it's time to learn computer, they will say, okay, let's go to computer room. And the kids will go to there, because when they go there, they will find the resources, the computers, they can have their own, and the teaching will be easier for them. Like lab, if it's school that is doing science, they can go to the lab. Now we also have French language room. Like some of the schools that we recommend us to come to their school, like for example, some schools that have big environment, that they have more space, they can be able to say, okay, we also need a room for this French language. We can come and arrange it with different resources, posters, and this room, when the kids entered, is for different levels. Everything is there, both for nursery, both for primary. But if it's school that is secondary school, we can also arrange the room in a way that when they enter, they can be able to learn this language easily for them, and it can even be fun for them. And before you know it, they can even be able to impart it to other kids. So this French language room is like a room apart, but if it's a school that they don't have a space for this language room, you can also get posters that you can post in the classroom environment. They can use it and they can also practice the language with them. So I would like to stop here, and I hope that these resources, if your school have other resources for other language, you can also start to have resources for French language, which can help them and also answer the question of the person that said, is this possible? Yes, it's possible for them, but depends on the resources you are using to teach them. Thank you so much, and I would like to stop here.
Thank you so much, Mademoiselle Ella. These resources help you to make the French language learning experience in your school very expressive. Sometimes I say the French language is a very dramatic language. So it's not something you just stand and then you talk. And you know the way kids are, they'll just keep staring at you till, like, in their minds, okay, when you're done, you leave our class. So these resources help us keep the children locked. Like, I mean, they are focused on what they are saying, what is being said, what is being watched, and then you keep them engaged with all these various activities that she mentioned, the flashcards, the puzzles, the just different activities that just make the language very interesting and very immersive. So thank you so much, Mademoiselle Ella. I see questions about how do you get the resources. So I'm going to be putting our website link in the chat, www.mapetitfranceNG.com, or you can call us on 0811 825 7169. You can also walk into our facility anytime you like and pay us a visit, and we'll be so glad to have you around. So thank you so much to our keynote speaker, Dr. Alani Suleiman. It was such an honor to have you here today. Thank you, Ms. Tosin Adeshina. Thank you, Monsieur John Akende. And finally, Mademoiselle Emanuela Oduaro. And to everyone who joined in, we're so glad. We're grateful that you stayed right through to the end. And so this meeting will be available. It's being recorded, so we'll send it in as mails. You can please share to as many school administrators as possible. So thank you so much. Thank you, and have a good evening. Au revoir et merci beaucoup pour aujourd'hui. Au revoir, au revoir.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Charloua et bienvenue dans la cuisine de ma petite France. Normalement, quels sont les objets que vous allez trouver dans la cuisine? D'accord, je vais vous montrer. Suivez-moi. Voici le réfrigérateur, mélanger de café, micro-ondes, la cuillère, la fourchette et les assiettes.
Salut, je m'appelle Daki. Aujourd'hui, nous allons préparer des créatures délicieuses. Les ingrédients sont de la farine, des œufs, du lait, de la vanille, du sel, du sucre et du beurre.
Coucou, je m'appelle Peaches. Pour préparer des crêpes, le matériel sont une louche, un fouet, un grand saladier, une poêle et une spatule.
Salut, nous allons commencer par verser la farine dans le saladier.
Puis nous allons ajouter un peu de sel, le sucre et mélanger.
Coucou, maintenant nous allons casser des œufs dans le saladier. Ajoute le lait et vanille.
Après, on mélange avec un fouet.
Maintenant, nous allons verser le lait et les œufs dans le saladier de farine.
Et puis, on mélange les œufs avec un fouet.
Ensuite, nous allons ajouter du beurre et verser une demi-louche de pâte à crêpes.
Et finalement, nous allons faire cuire 1 à 2 minutes.
Les crêpes sont prêtes. Comme cette fois, abricot, il y en a une, il y en a deux. Comme cette fois, abricot, il y en a une, deux. C'est l'abricot qui est en trop. Comme cette fois, il y en a une, il y en a deux. Comme cette fois, il y en a une, deux.